Greetings and welcome to episode 19 of Ending the Sexual Dark Age. I'm JV Altheros, and this show is going to wrap up some of the BDSM basics that I got into on episode 17. That was a long, heavy show about background, concepts, and philosophies. Today will be more like light, quick, and practical, and it includes a little bit of listener mail towards the end. I'm really just wrapping up on some thoughts I couldn't bring myself to squeeze into an already jumbo-sized episode a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned before that BDSM allows group intimacy without group sex, and I want to get into that concept a little bit more. Group play can range from a few swats to the ass while there are more than two people in the room, to more intense carnivals of flesh involving any number of people. I always loved that phrase, carnival of flesh. It conjures memories for me of some of the best parties I've ever been to. Any specific instance of play, from mild to wild, is referred to as a scene, and it's not unlike a scene from a movie. It has a beginning and an end with the fun parts in the middle. Sometimes a scene is something totally spontaneous and casual. Sometimes it's planned out in great detail. At any given play party, you might do a few scenes with a few different people, or just hang back and watch. There's a process in kinky living known as negotiating a scene, and it's exactly what it sounds like. The players sit down together before play begins and talk about what will and will not be considered acceptable play during the scene. This is kind of like what porn actors do when they're talking about their do's and don'ts before working together. Every porn actor has a list of their own sexual do's and don'ts, and before shooting a scene, if they've never worked together, they'll trade lists to get everyone on the same page. This allows the sex to play out as naturally as possible on camera, and any porn producer will tell you that they get the best results when the actors are actually having a really good time. In porn, this isn't negotiating as much as it is informing the people that they're working with, but the principle is basically the same. In BDSM play, negotiations might happen right before play begins, or days or even weeks before. It's the process of the players getting together to communicate their preferences, goals, and desires before anyone's got their juices flowing, and it's an important element of the fantasy. Play usually feels most fulfilling when it's either spontaneous or feels spontaneous. Once play begins, everybody wants to get lost in their role, be it dominant, submissive, or whatever. Talking out limits and desires while everyone is in a relaxed headspace supports that spontaneity because it keeps discussion of limits outside of the scene. The submissive can throw themselves completely into being at the mercy of the dominant with the knowledge in the back of their head that the dom is not going to take them anywhere they don't want to go. A scene is a fantasy in motion, and the honest negotiation is the structural support of that fantasy. This is also one of the places where the principles of BDSM overlap the principles of great sex. Girls, have you ever wished you could just sit a guy down and say, for example, I don't like having my nipples pinched, but I like having my ass slapped, I like being told what to do, I don't like having my hair pulled, and don't stick anything bigger than your finger in my ass. Other than that, I'm open-minded. That's the kind of info that absolutely needs to be part of negotiating a scene. It's the kind of info that would be part of your do's and don'ts if you were doing porn. The freedom to be that honest and that blunt is a fundamental benefit of a BDSM mindset. The people you're playing with expect it and they welcome it with open arms. Once a submissive is comfortable that, to extend the example, nothing bigger than a finger is going to get stuck up their ass, they're going to feel safe being strapped to a bed with their ass in the air, totally at the mercy of their playmate, and they're not going to say, oh, wait a minute, don't stick anything big in there. It's already been discussed beforehand. Dominants often put a tremendous amount of thought and planning into scenes beforehand. That's one of the primary responsibilities of the dom. And doing it well is something we take a great deal of pride in. Negotiating play can be as simple as exchanging a list of do's and don'ts, or it can involve elaborate scripting, especially in cases where a specific fantasy that is very detailed is being played out. And a key point here is that BDSM play doesn't have to involve sex. For example, if a guy wants to watch his wife get spanked by someone else, that can easily happen without his wife having sex with someone else. Sure, it's someone else's hand or paddle or flogger on her ass. Maybe someone else's hand between her legs if she wants the full kinky spanking experience. It's intimate, but it's not going to go any farther than everyone agrees to beforehand. I've played with many people that I never fucked, and I look back on those experiences as totally satisfying and a whole lot of fun. In this way, group BDSM play can be a way for the curious to take an exploratory step in the general direction of group sex or swinging without having to dive into the deep end on day one. There are enough shades of gray that you can explore at your own pace, or get a good look and decide that it's just not for you. Most people who identify with some aspect of the BDSM lifestyle will never set foot in a fetish club or at a play party. Sex is a private thing for many people, no matter how they like it, and that's okay too. But if you want your kinky play to be more than private, you need to find some people to play with. Play parties and fetish clubs are great places to do some group exploration in a safe environment. Play parties being private affairs among friends and associates that might or might not be regularly scheduled, and fetish clubs being less private and cozy but much easier to find. There also tends to be a good bit of overlap between the fetish club crowd and the swinger club crowd, due to the openly explorative nature of BDSM. Depending on the community, there may be little or no distinction between the two. For play parties, you need to network with other kinky people in your area, which can be accomplished online in places like FetLife.com, which Shara and I recently found via a suggestion from Liam. The idea behind FetLife is to have a Facebook-type thing for kinky people, a place to have social networking that's open to sexuality, as opposed to trying to network with people someplace where your mom and your grandma can read everything that you post. A quick tip if you're signing up there for the first time, the system asks you for a location, so the site can refer you to groups and events and such in your area. But if you want to keep things more anonymous, just select Antarctica as your location, and everyone will know that that means you'd rather not say. Shara and I only just got set up on FetLife, so I can't give it any kind of a real review at this point. But there will be links to myself and Shara in the show notes, and we'd invite you to friend us there if you're either already there or interested in checking it out. I can also tell you there are a lot of event listings, so if you're looking for somewhere to network in person, you might get some direction at FetLife. In addition to looking for new friends online, munches tend to be a great place to find kinky people interested in some sort of group play, or at least in meeting other kinky people. I covered those pretty thoroughly in episode 17, so I won't rehash all of that here, but munches attract kinksters interested in making kinky friends, which leads to play parties, and there are often private parties right after the munch if you get to know the right people. Fetish clubs are naturally easier to find than private parties, and Google can be your best method for finding something in your area since most of them have online presences these days. You can probably find one or more anywhere with decent population density, and they tend to be members-only establishments. This allows a lot more flexibility regarding what goes on inside than you can possibly have with a club that's open to the public. It's not unusual to have a membership fee that covers some set period of time plus a price at the door. Membership requirements vary widely, with some clubs requiring phone or in-person interviews before admitting new members. This is done to keep the riffraff and the gawkers out and to ensure a high-quality experience for everyone. It's also not unusual to have a separate VIP area inside the club, with some or all actual play restricted to the VIP area. This keeps any actual play a little more private than it would be in the common area, and VIP access sometimes comes with a higher membership fee to keep out even more of the riffraff, and you might need to come around a few times before VIP membership is actually available to you. The big upshot is that in a lot of cases, you can also get access to a playroom full of equipment that you don't have the space for at home, and you'll never have to explain to anyone why that door is always locked. And whether private party or fetish club, there's always someone playing referee to make sure that everything stays sane and nobody gets pushed past their limits. Play parties, fetish clubs, and swingers clubs also share a strict code of silence about what goes on within and with whom. Talking about things that you saw happen is okay, as long as no mention of names or physical descriptions comes along with those stories. Remember that everyone else who was there is giving you the same consideration, and stepping into any sort of group scenario means that you are fundamentally agreeing to take part in a sort of group trust and discretion that just has to exist and has to be respected. Another thing to bear in mind if you're curious but hesitant is that kinksters are generally very friendly, very welcoming people. We accept and respect anonymity, and we're perfectly satisfied with assumed names as long as you're using the same one all the time. We all remember when we were new, feeling things out for the first time. And if you decide to venture into any sort of group scene, nobody's going to expect you to be more than a spectator your first few times. In fact, if you're a cool person to have around, even if you never do any kind of group play, you're still going to be welcome because you're a kinkster and you're part of the community. If you want to go to play parties or fetish clubs and not actually do any performing, not play with anybody else, they're not just for people who are interested in group play. They're people who are interested in a sense of community among other kinky people that you just can't get in a regular club-type environment. So while I do talk a lot about group-type activities that happen at play parties and fetish clubs, I do not intend to sound like you shouldn't go to one unless that's what you're interested in. They're a great place to find community, make new friends, and also, if you're into showing off a little bit, to just show off your playmate and have some exhibitionist-style fun before taking your playmate home with you. All that said, asking a submissive who you need to talk to about giving her a spanking is a perfectly acceptable opening line, and I've always been very comfortable in any environment where that's true. As I mentioned a minute ago, we all remember being new, and on balance, we're just happy to see new people venturing into the dungeon in the first place. Most of us dyed-in-the-wool freaks will go out of our way to help newbies feel comfortable and to help them find their way. As a final note on clubs, many choose to limit the number of single guys that are there at any given time. Some don't allow single guys in at all unless they're accompanied by a couple. This can be annoying if you are a single guy, but in reality, it's for the good of the environment. Sausage festivals aren't good for business because they tend to make everybody feel uncomfortable. Just like all great straight sex revolves around the female orgasm, all good times at a play party or a fetish club revolve around the comfort level of the submissives. If you're a single guy, your best bet might be to make some friends online and add some munches so you can try getting into a more private scene, or find a curious woman to join you in the club scene, whether she's your playmate or not. Remember, if you show up as a couple, nobody's checking to make sure you live together. They just want to keep the balance of men and women somewhere in balance. Regardless, any club is going to have any policy on single guys posted. So check out the ones around you to see what your options are. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the word fetish and how our relationship with the word has evolved over the years. In the strict old-school clinical type definition, a fetish is something totally non-sexual that a person requires in order to achieve sexual satisfaction. A real-life example shared by someone I know is a guy who literally can't have an orgasm unless the woman is wearing high heels. Or another guy who can't have sex with his wife unless they play out a role-playing scene in which he's a John and she's a prostitute, complete with envelope o' cash. These are fetishes by the classical definition. It's widely believed that fetishes are hardwired into our brains at an early age. Sexuality is undeveloped in children, and the belief is that experiences can cause a child's brain to make strong connections between sexuality and totally non-sexual objects or situations, since undeveloped sexuality by its very nature can't make clear distinctions on what is and isn't sexual. An easy example would be the common fixations on doctors, nurses, school teachers, etc. A lot of this remains speculation at this point, since there isn't, unfortunately, a tremendous amount of hard science looking at kink. But there has been some good science on the subject, and hopefully there will be much more in the future. Anyway, the term fetish now has a much broader meaning in the mainstream consciousness, a more watered-down meaning, if you will. Fetishes are generally regarded more like non-sexual things or situations that add to sexual pleasure, maybe something you really, really like a whole lot, as opposed to something that is required. A good example in my case would be thigh-high stockings. I love thigh-high stockings. If I'm warming up to some naked time with a woman that's wearing them, she's keeping them on. One could say that I have a stocking fetish, according to the modern understanding of the word. For the classical meaning to apply, I'd have to need her to wear stockings, as opposed to just really liking them when they're already in play. There are all kinds of fetishes out there, a whole rainbow of gray area, and a lot are really specific. Adult baby play or infantilism would be an example of a very specific fetish, as would costume play or water sports. But even those who enjoy what are often considered to be fringe sexual fetishes don't require them as a part of sex play all the time, at least not in most cases. These days things are a little more relaxed and organic, with a lot less drive to label everything and everyone, and I personally think that's fucking outstanding. Labels suck, and there aren't enough of them to cover all of us anyway. I think part of this trend is due to the acceptance of the BDSM flag by so many people looking for whatever slice of alternative sexuality they fancy. As I mentioned in episode 17, the BDSM scene, such as you might find it in your area, is likely to include all sorts of offbeat sexuality that might have nothing at all to do with the fundamental undertones of power exchange that surround what many consider to be the scope of BDSM. The scope is far broader. It's a wide community accepting pretty much any version of sexual deviance that you can conjure, as long as it happens between consenting adults who understand whatever risks might be involved. From cross-dressers to plushies, anyone is welcome to fly the flag. For those interested in exploring kink for the first time, it can be a daunting proposal. The sexual dark age persists around all of us, and kinky people are farther in the dungeon than the gays are in the closet these days. If you're in a relationship, your obvious path is to get kinky with your playmate, and I hope these BDSM Basics episodes have taken a lot of the mystery and confusion out of that equation for you. Talking about it with your playmate is the big first step, and I hope the last 6 months of Ending the Sexual Dark Age have helped you find a more positive outlook on whatever might turn you on, as well as the courage to reach for it. As far as turning your playmate on to kink, I'm happy to help, and I won't even feel used. I recently found out actually there's a therapist out there using this show to help patients with sexual issues. He prescribes cuddle time plus ending the sexual dark age with a healthy dose of conversation afterwards regarding the topic of the show that they listen to. So this podcast is literally being used by a therapist as a tool to enhance communication between playmates. If you're trying to get your playmate to open up to new aspects of sexuality, that's a great place to start. If you're going to have great sex, you've got to have great communication, and I'll repeat this until the end of my days. Getting kinky just makes that communication more important. A fuckload of people are trapped, blind, in a world of puritanical sexuality, totally unhappy, but also totally unaware of how to do anything about it. Odds are, all you're going to have to do for your playmate is throw them a rope. If you'd rather try to lead your playmate into some kink without talking about it first, it becomes a just do it type scenario. Pick something a little kinky that you'd like to try. Not too kinky, just exploratory. Think handcuffs and feathers rather than bullwhips and gangbangs. A little hair pulling or ass slapping or whatever turns you on that's outside the realm of plain vanilla sex, and more importantly, is something that is new to your sexual relationship. A little experimentation can easily come first, but the conversation does need to follow, and it might be easier to have when you're both sweaty and smiling. As always, if you got specific questions or concerns, drop me a line and I'll be happy to make some suggestions tailored to your situation. If you're single and looking to add some kink to your playtime, there are a few ways to go about it. One of the simpler methods is to try getting into it with your next playmate. There's nothing wrong with starting from scratch with someone else who's doing the same. There's actually a lot of value, and there are arguments that is a very good way to do it. There are going to be stumbles and confusion and mistakes like there are with any new adventure. Sharing them with someone who's also new to kink can help you develop a very deep bond with that person. Another is to start surrounding yourself with kinky people at events like Munches, and try for a vanilla date if you find someone interesting at a Munch. You can also try networking somewhere like FetLife around one of the many kink-oriented dating sites out there. I've personally had good experiences with alt.com, and I'd be happy to hear from listeners regarding any other reliable sites that they've had good experience with. Like all dating sites, alt.com is heavily weighted against guys by sheer volume. There are a ton of guys on there, dom and sub, competing for the attention of a comparatively small amount of women. Doesn't make it a waste of time, but it's definitely not easy pickings as they try to tell you it is when they're trying to get you to pull out your credit card for a gold membership. They make it sound like, oh yeah, just sign up here and people will start throwing pussy at you. Well, that really doesn't work out that way. But I'm sure that does sell quite a few memberships. Just understand that being a guy on any internet dating site is not an easy business. You should pretty much plan on just buying the premium membership for something to separate you out from the rest of the herd. Women, especially single women, tend to be able to get away with the free memberships. I'll talk about online dating in more detail in a future episode, but I wanted to drop this much in for this one. Kinky online dating is more the path of someone willing to put their interest in kink out there in a profile, even though it's anonymous, and then look for a playmate with similar interests. So it's kind of the other side of the coin. It's a perfectly valid way to go about it, depending on your personal preferences. Even in a vanilla date, you can learn a lot about a person by dropping spanking into the conversation somewhere and seeing how they react. Spanking is something of a quintessential activity in BDSM. It's instantly recognizable by just about anybody. Working in a comment like, oh, if you keep looking at me like that, you're going to end up getting a spanking, is a perfect teaser. You retain the option to play it off like you were just 100% joking. So she, if her eyes go all crazy, she's like, you pervert, right? You just play it off like, oh, I was just kidding, come on. But if that's not the reaction, it can take your conversation in an entirely new direction. Regardless, watching body language and facial expressions after you drop spanking into the conversation can tell you a lot about someone's overall attitudes towards kink. Many times I have used that move with great results, the most memorable being a response of, promise? Yes, I promise. Check, please. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm going to hit a couple listener mail items that are BDSM related as part of this episode. First off, we've got a post from Gib on the website. He writes, I actually had my first experience with BDSM because of this podcast. Back when you talked about soft and hard limits, I basically said, well, I'm trying this. Unfortunately, I didn't have any female friends close enough, and literally close enough to try it physically, so I did the next best thing and did it via phone. I sent a text message since I was anticipating pictures to be the basic medium, asked the girl if she was interested in it at all. She said yes, and about an hour of just honest discussion back and forth, and we went about it. Since it was the first time I had attempted to be a dom and the first time she had attempted to be a sub, I expected nothing of it, really. To my surprise, I had her writing stuff all over her body in Sharpie and begging me for erotica. I'm a natural writer and I can handle that. She even ended up writing some stuff on her body that went above and beyond what I asked of her. And if she wasn't lying to me, after my lengthy erotica finished sending, which is annoying to type through a phone, she had a rather intense orgasm just because of her state of mind. Being someone who at the heart of things strictly enjoys bringing pleasure to my sexual partner, I was instantly hooked. Well, Gib, I can say that I am thrilled to hear that your first experience went so well. Sounds like both of you had a blast, and this is an excellent example of testing the waters without committing yourself to anything intense. Fuck, in your case, you weren't even in the same room. But with your first experience, you managed to not only dominate your playmate, but pull a level of submission out of her that was beyond what you were asking for, and that's kind of a magical thing. It doesn't get to happen all the time, and good for you that you made it happen your first time. Hopefully some other listeners find some inspiration here, and I'll use your comment as an excuse to mention that the fine people over at Sharpie make an outstanding product. Sharpie markers can be used to write on damn near anything. And so they can be used to write or draw damn near anything you can imagine right on your playmate, and they are not particularly permanent on skin. Most shampoos or decent body washes will take Sharpie off in the course of a single shower, so you can be as lewd as you want without long-lasting marks. Make sure to have Shara talk a little bit about our many Sharpie adventures once I get her on the air in a few minutes. And just for safety's sake, before you use a whole lot of Sharpie the first time, just make sure that, whatever body wash your submissive or your playmate is using, do a little test and make sure that stuff actually works, because I don't want to be the guy who told you to do it and then, whatever you have didn't take it off and somebody's got to, go to work the next day with a dick drawn on their forehead. That'd be bad stuff. Well, it'd be pretty funny, but it probably wouldn't end too well for the person with the dick on their forehead. And next we have Ninja with a fucking tragic problem. She writes, I never thought I'd say this, but lately I've been getting bored while giving head. Now don't get me wrong, I love giving head. In fact, I've been known to come from it. It's always been something I really love doing, but now it seems more like a chore. Maybe it's because I do it so often or because I don't know enough creative ways to spice it up. I don't know what's different, but I know I need help. I haven't said anything to my guy yet because I have no idea how to bring it up without making it sound like a big deal. This has only happened in the last 2 weeks, but it feels like 2 weeks too long to me. So if there's anything I could try, please, please, please tell me. Because I'm so close to counting strokes, it's not even funny. Thanks in advance. Since this issue is blowjob related, I am required by the guild to address it immediately. So Ninja, I'll see if I can give you a few suggestions here. I know you're starting to explore BDSM, so first off, I'll suggest that you try to work a little kink into your head. Being restrained in any way will limit your range of motion and the tools at your disposal, so you'll have to be a lot more creative while you're sucking cock, and that should translate pretty directly into making it interesting again. It'll become a challenge again. Based on some other comments you've made, you might also find it entertaining to take a totally passive role by asking your guy to tie you up completely and then fuck you in the mouth while you're restrained, rather than you doing the work by going down on him. The simple shift of that reversal will give you a chance to explore your submissive side a little bit more, as well as cast a new light on giving head and a new way to mix it up. Shara absolutely loves it when I do that to her, but it's not something we do all the time, partially because part of the point of a blowjob is for a guy to kick back and relax, and that's kind of the opposite of that. So, while it is definitely fun for me, not something I want to do every day. In general, you might want to try some new positions or situations to see if that gives you a little bit of a different light on it. For one of the most famous sexual positions, a lot of people don't actually spend much time in the tried and true 69. Some other options would be to play around with ice, breath mints, flavored lube, pop rocks, or anything else that can add a new aspect to the experience. A new level of complexity, if you will. As Shara mentioned on the website, your desire for some new kinky experiences may be out there a little bit ahead of your access to kinky play or whatever speed your guy is comfortable going. When you've got a lot of new things you want to try, the everyday business of vanilla sex can lose a little bit of its shine. So I'll suggest you mix things up a little and then see how you feel. Let us know if none of the above work. A woman who loves to suck cock is a national treasure and the pinnacle of evolution, so we will do whatever we can to help you get back in the saddle. Once again, Shara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
How you doing today, baby?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, you just had quite a little bit of a nap there.
I did, and I had a great weekend with you, so thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And Willie says you're welcome as well.
Oh, well, I'm glad to always make sure Willie's happy.
So this episode finished up on the last couple of topics that I didn't want to squeeze into the last episode. including negotiating scenes, generally why you negotiate scenes and, what you might expect to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how often you may or may not have done that. Since we have been together, I know where your few limits are, so I negotiate scenes on behalf of both of us. So I don't know when the last time you were actually a party to negotiating a scene was.
Let's see. Prior to you, I had someone that, was responsible for me, was not exactly my dominant, but he was basically like a caretaker over me.
Right. Also douchebag.
Yes, but I'll skip over that part. But he obviously was extremely protective of me, and I always negotiated scenes with him. But there were times that I felt that he went over my limit. But I told you about the time in New York, and that was somebody that was highly well known, and he asked me a few questions, but basically I left it in his hands, and because I knew he was so well known, he was very easy to work with.
Well, you're just generally a do your worst to be kind of a girl anyway.
No, I'm not. Oh, that bell. So anyway, and prior to that, I was going to Munches, and I would go to private parties, and they were always talked about beforehand. So I wasn't too worried about it. No one ever went beyond what I could handle and what was discussed.
And I know you've been to quite a few fetish clubs
Mm-hmm.
in various places, also quite a few play parties.
Mm-hmm.
I have been to a whole lot of private play parties, not so many fetish clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I don't travel extensively either, and we don't exactly have a thrilling selection of fetish clubs around here.
But you did go with me to a couple. And...
Oh yeah, we've definitely had some fun. Yeah, I watched your little friend that we talked about a couple episodes ago beat your ass in the middle of the bar. That was fun.
Well, that was great. Okay. Staying focused.
What about your other experiences with play parties? Anything that you would, based on your experiences, either with me or before me, any general suggestions that you'd make to people out there who are just getting interested in BDSM as to how to approach play parties?
Well, and I think you covered some of this in your earlier discussions, but a couple of things. Number one is it's obviously a lot more men than women sometimes when you're going to like the sites.
Sausage Festival, yes.
So they tend to limit the number of men, or they tend to charge more for men, like women get in free.
Yeah, we're used to that.
Yes, I know. So,
everything costs less when you've got a pussy. That's
hey,
one of the rules of order in the universe. It's just the way it is.
I know, but I enjoyed every moment of those.
Oh, that's fine.
Anyway, but...
That's points to you girls.
But in saying that, I think it's for a submissive, whether it's a female or a male, you have to be very careful not to get sucked in to a bad situation. So I was always thankful for the Munches, group parties, private settings, knowing that I was going to be well taken care of by the people that I've gotten to know in the community. So I think the number one thing is to have somebody in the community that you trust to take care of you. You really have to have that trust. And that's one of the things that I think also makes the relationship between a dominant and a submissive extremely strong. So it also means you have to be careful of your feelings. When you're a submissive, I can only speak as a submissive point of view, but as a submissive, it's easy to fall for a dominant because you have that, oh, wow, he's great. And, oh, I'll never find another one like that. But that's not necessarily true. Look at me. Before you, there was several.
Oh, we know.
But I never thought, I never thought that I would find someone like you. In other words, I thought, oh, this was the best. And then, now that I've been with you, it's like, wow.
Right, you're having a good time with what you got. You assume it's the best you can have. It's not necessarily the case.
But I think BDSM brings it out in people because you're having these new experiences, and it can really bring out the wow factor for you. But hang in there and have some good times, but keep your head level and just enjoy yourself. But surround yourself with people that have a good reputation. That's the first thing that I did. There's several in our community that have very good reputations, and I aligned myself with them. And I was in very good hands because of that. In fact, the douchebag, as you call him, many of them did not care for him. And they kind of warned me. And so I was cautious.
Well, actually, that's what people will do. You know, once you start, a community is like any community.
Mm-hmm.
BDSM community is no exception.
Right.
There are a lot of really good people.
Mm-hmm.
There are some douchebags.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people on total power trips.
Mm-hmm.
There are some narcissistic fuckwads. You know, I mean, so it's a community. You're going to have good people and bad people. The nice thing about getting to know some people in the community is the good ones far outnumber the bad ones, and the good ones know who the bad ones are.
And if they don't know who that person is when you're talking to people and you really trust their opinion and they don't know the person, be cautious and let them get to know that person. But you still have to be cautious. If no one knows them in the community, him or her.
Right. Well, and that's all based on the premise of, you know, for example, going out and starting to go to Munches and finding the community and then dating within the community, finding new people to see within the community as opposed to going to events as a couple.
Right. And I think it's ultimately your choice. But it's good to know that you have people in the community that you can turn to for advice, not necessarily take their word verbatim, but if there's 10 out of 10 that say this guy is bad news, obviously he's probably bad news, or the female.
And that's one of the things I've been trying to underline about the community is that in general, we are the most accepting, open, welcoming group of people that I have ever interacted with.
Yes, I agree.
You know, whatever you like to get pissed on while you're wearing a plunger stuck to your shaved head, you know, okay, come on in. You know, we got room for you. It's fine. So,
you like to wear those diapers? Okay, we'll accept you in the diapers.
Yeah, exactly. You know, all your things diapers, okay, cool. We're not playing together, but that's good. Yep. You know, good for you. Have some fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the community is very opening and they're open and welcoming. And as kind of a result to that, or on a related note, I suppose, anytime you have a group of kinky people gathering, there will always be a handful of them that just kind of take it upon themselves to play host. You know, even at a munch, or to be the mother hen, you know, to come by, oh, there's new faces. Well, I'm going to go say hello and introduce myself and, you know, make them feel like they're welcome.
Which is what happened to me. I was immediately, both at Munches and a couple of the parties, that fetish clubs, I was very welcomed by several in the community, and it was great to have that. And then I, you know, got invited to private parties by some very high-end caliber people in the community, which, you know, of course, was very exciting for me.
Well, I think Munches and, general, just whatever type of group events can also be kind of cathartic for a lot of people, because there are plenty of people out there who have lived in this ridiculously puritanical sexuality and just felt trapped by it and felt like they were all fucked up. Mm-hmm. You know, the first time you go to a munch, you are probably the least freaky person in the room.
Right.
Probably.
Right.
You know, so, and as soon as you start to get a sense of that, I think there's a lot of relief that can come with that.
Exactly. And one of the things I like most about that is there is no judging. It could be, hey, I'm really into much older men or into much older women, or, you know, there's nothing. There's really like not a whole lot of boundaries there that people are judging you on. It might not be their kink, but they're not going to judge you, because that's what this is all about, is going to a safe haven that you can let yourself be yourself.
Next, I was talking about introducing BDSM to an existing relationship. Mm-hmm. This is something that I have personally done on many occasions, and as you might imagine, I am the just do it type of person.
No, really?
Yeah, I mean,
Can't imagine that.
If I get together, back when I was single, if I got together with somebody new, if I liked her, there were restraints out by the third time we got naked together, because we all usually second time, but
I was going to say that's
sometimes the first time, but you often improvised restraints the first time.
I think you would have with me the first time, but you know, for some reason you decided to. You know.
Oh, you want to talk about that? Yeah, I decided to just grab your ankle in one hand, push you up against the wall, lift your leg up to shoulder level, and give you a pussy spanking. That's all I decided to do on our first date.
Okay, now see. Okay, well, yes, that did get me all excited just thinking about it, and we're going to have to rush this along so I can, you know, have some moment with you again. No, just kidding, everybody. So, yes. Okay. On to the next subject. So
I don't even know what we were talking about, so you totally distracted me.
Well, let's bring it back to focus.
Introducing BDSM.
Yes. You usually wait till the third.
Well, you know, by the third round of naked time.
I just find that amazing that you're that patient, because I mean, you're a patient person.
I'm a patient man.
But when it comes to, you know, the lifestyle.
Well, there's only when you got somebody new. I mean, there's only so intense you want to play the first couple times anyway, because you got to get to know them. You got to make sure they're not some kind of a freak. Plenty of times a spanking might leave some bruises on the ass. You don't want somebody going all crazy and claiming they were abused and shit like that. So that's the trust factor too.
Which, by the way, I just want to back up for 1 second when you brought up spanking can cause bruises. I used to get
in most people.
I was getting to that. I had, as you know, a dominant that was in charge of me basically until I found a dominant to be in a personal relationship with. But when we would play, he would often mark me, which was exciting for me. However, so much of it happened that when you and I met, it was disappointing for me because I didn't bruise anymore.
Oh, I know. I have beaten your ass a few times, and I have almost never gotten it to mark the next day.
I know. So
it's actually kind of annoying.
I know. It was very disappointing.
It's one more reason I consider him a douchebag. It's reason number 807. So,
but I want to put it out there for people who are out there playing and enjoying themselves. When you find the right dominant, if you're a submissive, when you find that right dominant, you don't want to have your body so to the point that you can't have those fun moments with that person. So just saying, if you do a lot of something, check it out. I wish I would have. I wish I would have checked out, markings and things like that beforehand.
And Frugal Dom, which I've mentioned several times on the show, is a good reference website for stuff like that. What are the long-term effects of spankings or bondage or various types of play? They have pretty good articles on a lot of different types of play and do a pretty good job of talking about long-term effects if there are any.
And also, I don't know if you brought this up yet, so I don't want to jump ahead because I didn't see it mentioned in here, or if you did it in a previous episode about our medical expert medical advisor. Yeah,
I mentioned him on not last episode, but the one before, to announce that we had an official medical advisor.
Okay.
He actually gave me a great write-up on some more specific and just more technically detailed info on why cleaning sex toys is important.
Yes, thank you very much.
That is going to be posted on the website. I'm going to post it by the next listener mail episode, on which I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
Which I've read it all, and I'm very thankful because I think it's helpful, and it also helps me with my Pink Mafia group to be able to keep them, better informed as well, and refer them to the link.
And it's great stuff for people like me who are just geeks that want to know everything about everything.
Exactly.
I'm one of the guys who says, "Can you give me some more detailed information about that?" I don't want the McNuggets. I don't want TLDR.
But I want to thank our medical advisor because he has been extremely helpful for our podcast. So thank you.
Yep, beginning of great things. Thank you very much, sir. So the next item, we just got a couple of listener mail items to talk about a little bit. The first is Gib.
I read that.
Yep, who had a stellar first BDSM experience. So high five to you. One thing that you mentioned when we were talking about this earlier, I am, as you know, a big fan of Sharpies.
Yes, I know that.
Yes. Shara brought up when we were talking about this earlier that you do need to be careful how much permanent marker and such you put on your skin.
Yes, there's a product called Xylene.
Well, there's a solvent called Xylene in some of them. Okay. Sharpies are non-toxic.
Okay.
But so they're like basically they're more of an alcohol base. So Sharpies are non-toxic, which is one of the reasons they're used everywhere. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to necessarily put penetrating ink into your skin if it's something you're doing all the time.
Right.
Occasional Saturday night, you want to touch your girlfriend up and, write "fuck me here" with a couple of arrows on her belly while her ankles are behind her ears. That's all good fun. Sharpie's perfectly suitable for that. But,
sorry.
If it's something you want to do all the time, you may want to also consider something like a body paint or a body ink.
Correct.
That is designed to be used on skin.
And a lot of fun.
Yes, and I love Sharpie. I use Sharpie for all kinds of things.
Do you, though?
Yeah, I had, once in a while, Shara will, well, not once in a while, often Shara will come so hard that she actually passes out. And I've got to wake her up. And she never wants to believe that she passes out. I'll wake her up and she'll be like, "Oh no, I did not. You're lying." So this one day, she passed out while I was going down on her. So I went and got a Sharpie and I lifted up her shirt while she was passed out. and I drew 2 smiley faces on her nipples. And then I put her shirt back down and woke her back up. And she again denied having passed out. Like, oh, no, I did not. So I made her get up and walked into the bathroom, stood behind her, and lifted her shirt up so she could see the smiley faces on her titties.
And that, my friends, was, we're not going to do it this time, I hope, 4 bells worth of ringing, because I didn't believe it, but boy, did my face turn red, and, it was funny.
Oh, yes, in honor of that glorious day.
But you did make me think about one item that might be fun for somebody that's getting new into the lifestyle and wants to start with some easy play, is to get one of your old T-shirts and have her put it on. And what you did with me was you would write something new on your shirt.
Oh, yeah. That was something we tried for a little while. As you explore kink more, you will try a lot of things, and not everything will be as cool as you think it will. So you won't continue doing everything you try, certainly. For a while, I gave Shara a shirt to wear, and every day or every couple of days, I would write some new filthy thing on the shirt, and that was the shirt that she was required to wear all the time. So basically, it was like writing the stuff on her, but I didn't have to do it every day.
And thank God I didn't have to answer the door when the pizza man came or anything like that. Phew.
We never got to that.
I know. Thank goodness. The shirt's not around anymore, is it?
Oh, that shirt's back in the closet.
Oh, no. Okay.
And the last thing that we're going to talk about is Ninja's fucking tragedy that she's got brewing out there. She's getting bored sucking dick.
Poor Ninja. That's not good.
Oh, I tell you what. The guild will support her on this matter. I mean, women who truly love sucking dick are a precious resource, and we need to support them and we need to nurture them.
And we have plenty in the Pink Mafia that absolutely love sucking cock, so we definitely have to help Ninja.
All right, so what kind of suggestions do you have for her? You know what I suggested. Do you have anything to add to that, or any comments on anything I mentioned?
I believe I may have put something on the website, and forgive me if I didn't. I thought I did.
You did.
Okay. It's just simple things that she may or may not get into, but I know a couple of them have tried something that you can add in terms of food-wise. Chocolate syrup, whipped cream are 2 of the easier ones.
That's true. And a guy, actually, most guys will enjoy, kicking back with their hands behind their head, watching their woman dress her cock up like a sundae. I mean, that's
of fun.
Perfectly fine from the man's perspective.
A lot of fun. And some like a lot and some not so much.
You're treating that cock like the monument we think it already is.
That's right. And another one is music. Certain music will put you into a certain mode, which we know a lot of our listeners out there have experienced trying different songs for different things on one of your earlier podcasts. But studying the mood, it has a lot to do with it. If it becomes like, okay, my master or my man wants me to, suck his cock today, and I'm just not really in the mood, you sometimes might have to put yourself in that mood. But once you do, you enjoy it more than he did.
Well, but she is saying that it's not that she doesn't like doing it, it's that she's bored with, she's bored with the, shall we say, ins and outs of it all.
So that's why I think that spicing it up in whichever way is going to work for her. And I'd love to hear back from her on, has she done any food play with it? I know one submissive that used honey. Now, mind you, honey's
a favorite. It is
sticky.
Yeah, it can be messy because it's just the right consistency that it will get all over everything, and nothing gets it out short of hot water.
Right. So what this submissive did was she purchased a painter's, I want to say painter's cloth, but it was more plasticky, and then she put drop cloth, and then she put another one over it that's or a towel. I can't remember what she did, but that made it where, okay, this is basically going out in the garbage after we're done.
Yeah, we call that a wall and ceiling condom.
There you go. So anyway, she did that, and she had a lot of fun with honey. We all know that I'm like the clean girl, so the honey thing probably wouldn't work for me. Although if you said I really want to try the honey, then I would do that. But
yeah, that's never been one of my big things.
Yes, but this isn't about the man. This is about making sure Ninja's happy. So
well, right,
whatever
but
makes
you were
her
just
happy.
talking about
I know
me and
I know. I'm just teasing you. Just teasing you. So anyway, but I'd like to hear from Ninja if she's tried the food situation, whether it's whipped cream or syrup or whatever your favorite thing is that can easily go on his cock. Then I'd like to hear from her if she's tried that.
And one of the suggestions that I made was that maybe since she wants to get into BDSM a little bit more, she might try getting tied up and then fucked in the mouth while she's tied up and can't do anything about it.
Correct.
So I figured I'd see what your opinions are about that.
Well, since you're ringing the bell, I'm sure everybody knows that obviously it works for me. So, yes, it's very exciting for me. A couple different positions. You've tied my hands behind my back, and I was sitting on the sofa. And obviously, when I'm sitting on the sofa, perfect mouth length, my height, I'm sorry. And so that worked really well. Another one was...
perfect mouth depth, too, for the record.
Okay. Trying to get through one whole sentence here is very difficult sometimes. And another one is being tied to the bed on my back. You spread my legs and my arms, and then I turn my head to the side, and that's another great one. So a couple of those. And I don't think, like you had mentioned, entering into the vanilla lifestyle, I think any man that is asked to tie you up, say, I'd like to try it this way.
Totally. Hey, baby, tie me up and fuck me in the mouth is gonna work.
Right.
Regardless of whether or not you have previous kinky play in your relationship, girls, that one's gonna work.
And it also will bring it into the vanilla lifestyle for you kind of easy. Say, wow, I really enjoyed that. Can we experiment some more? And then if you've already checked out kink.com, you could show them kink.com. It's something that you can do in the evening, light some candles, have a nice dinner, and then say, oh, by the way, let's go look at the computer.
Yeah, sometimes guys have to be fairly sneaky and creative getting women corrupted.
But women getting men corrupted is
so
much
that's
easier.
that's just easy. Oh, by the way, yeah, this is what I'm looking for tonight. Woo! Yeah.
And odds are, unless he's somewhat submissive himself, it's going to work. And by the way, there are the male submissives out there, so determining that whether he's...
Well, true, but if he's a submissive guy, he's going to do what he's told anyway.
Oh, that's true.
So,
but if she wants to be the one tied up, then it's a different
Yeah,
story.
but that's something you can always figure out.
So, that being said, if you're just now entering into the lifestyle, that's one of the easiest ways to bring it out in the open with the guy and even the girl. Hey, I was wondering how you feel. I'd like to take one of my ties and tie you up. Put your hands behind your back and use the safe word. Remember all the rules and regulations there for safety reasons so that she feels safe and comfortable. Because the first time you do bring it up to a woman and she's, a little bit nervous about it, and you have to make sure that she's comfortable. The safe word lets her know that no matter what I do, if I say red, you're going to stop. Puts them in an immediate comfort zone. Because they get nervous. I did. I was nervous. I'm not anymore, but.
Well, actually, something I find has always been very effective is just to progressively get a little bit filthier and a little bit more rotten, and see if anyone says stop. Even in a vanilla sexual situation, somebody can say uncle.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as corrupting women who have never done kinky play before, I find the most effective way is to just go ahead and do it. And if she's not asking any questions and she's not saying stop, then everybody's happy.
Well, yeah, I think so. But sometimes there are guys out there that aren't as confident as you are.
Well, certainly. It's not necessarily a viable method for everybody. But I'm just saying, if you can pull it off, if you've got the chutzpah to pull it off.
You've been doing it at a very young age, and some people
I certainly was.
I know. And some people, we won't talk about that at this episode, but if I could ring the bell, I'd like to just try that once to see if I could get you to blush at all, but I doubt that would happen.
Get me to blush?
Yeah.
Shit, woman. I don't even know that that's happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'll have to think about that one. But for the guy out there who's not sure of himself, or is ambivalent about bringing it out there, a tie, your belt, but a tie is soft and plenty of easy places to go to.
Oh yeah, every guy should have a few of them. They are great in a pinch. I mean, it's a silk strap that's roughly 3 feet long. I mean, it's a very handy thing to have.
Mm-hmm. So that
TSA won't even make you leave it at home.
So that being said, it's an easy way for them to bring it into the conversation. But not every girl, by the way, enjoys sucking cock. I mean, I do. I love it, but not all women do. So. Well,
not all women do automatically, but not all guys get their face between a woman's legs for the first time and, say, ooh, buffet. I mean, a lot of guys have to learn how to enjoy licking pussy. It's a new taste. Nothing else tastes like it. So by
and there
default,
are different tastes out there.
Yeah. Oh, and every woman tastes different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But nothing in the world tastes like pussy, and every woman does taste a little bit different. So pussy is an acquired taste. So you girls can just learn to suck dick, and that's the way it is.
And that's the way it is. I've already managed that. I'm not worried
Oh,
about
I
that
know.
on my end. Okay, so next subject. Ninja, let us know. I mean, I'm interested, and we got to keep helping her until she's...
Well, we're just about... Oh, absolutely, Ninja. Please feel free to let us know. Hopefully some of this works out for you or inspires you a little bit. But, again, women who love sucking dick are a national treasure. So if there's any further advice we can provide, please let us know.
We'll keep working at it for you.
The last thing I want to talk about is something that's a little bit spur of the moment, because we're officially at the end of the episode.
I just want everybody to know I see evil on his face right now. So.
It has been an interesting weekend here at the Hall of Liberty. Lots of sex. Wonderful.
Lots. Great.
Also, lots of chick flicks.
Oh, God.
I've been feeling merciful this weekend. So I have this loose and unregulated policy that I will watch chick flicks with my woman. I've always had this policy, but I want credit. And not that anyone is necessarily keeping score, but I just want credit. I want it marked down for the record that I sat down to watch a chick flick. A lot of the major studio chick flicks are actually pretty funny these days. I mean, the major studios have gotten pretty good at making the romantic comedies appealing to the guys as well. There are usually enough laughs and enough nice legs that guys will sit through them and actually enjoy themselves. However, this Hallmark Channel bullshit is in an entirely different category.
Which, by the way, I have to admit, I mean, when we were watching it, I found so many mistakes in film editing that I was like blown away.
Oh yeah, I find
who is in the film editing department over
editing
there?
incontinuities are all over the place, and the lower budget something is, the more likely you're going to have them.
And then they took the wedding announcement, the wedding announcement that goes in the newspaper. Okay, so I'm reading it, and I paused it because I wanted to see how they actually met, because they never talked about that. So I was interested in what they put in there, and I thought that the nephew was really a niece.
They're not editing that for the benefit of the person who would pause it to read the entire wedding announcement that was in the frame for 0.8 of a second.
I know, but they repeated it. Come on, that's just, I'll never do a movie like that. Okay, that's like.
But anyway, I had something occurred to me earlier that I thought I wanted to pass along to all the guys out there, because for all of this weird chick flick watching weekend, I have built up enough credit, I think, to not watch another chick flick for 8 to 10 months. I realize that there's something these chick flicks can do for guys. Because guys, most of you are probably like me. I mean, you don't go anywhere fucking near the Hallmark Channel or the Lifetime Movie Network. You just pretend those channels don't exist, and you hope your girl doesn't know they exist. Right? But women use remote controls too, so they always end up finding them. These movies are so far out there with the dialogue that happens between the guys, it is unfucking believable. Ladies and gentlemen, I watched a movie today in which two guys were sitting at a bar having a conversation about one's relationship, and they're all, oh, well, you really have to grab onto love when it comes by. I think you should chase her. No. Guys, no, let me translate that whole conversation into guy. Hey, you still hung up on that hot chick? Works down the street? Yeah. Well, do something about it. I'm sick of listening to you bitch about it. That's the guy conversation.
See, I think part of the Hallmark Channel is they want the woman to feel like the man really thinks about.
Well,
them
exactly.
This
So this is like watching creatures at the zoo in their natural habitat that the guys can do with these movies. Because they're all written by women, because they're written by women for women. And if you watch these movies and watch the ridiculous dialogue between the guys, you will start to see what women think we talk like when they're not around. And it's so far off. I think it provides perspective on the battle of the sexes and the reason we don't understand each other. So that's an interesting note to the guys on that. Because it's like watching the female in her own head. Mm-hmm. And it is, if you can come at those awful movies from that perspective, you can actually pull something positive out of them as a man.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you sat with those through me. I had fun picking on the movie, of course, because that's what I do. So I
I mean, they're always full of pretty people. So, I mean, it's not like there's It's not like there's people who look like a monkey's ass on the screen.
We decided that there's a couple of actresses that we want to see their racks. Okay, we want to see a full view rack.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Two of them that we
there
thought.
There are a few girls in there that definitely need to be a little more desperate for work and start flinging their titties on screen.
Are we on podcasts allowed to like mention them? Like certain names.
What, actresses' names? Yeah.
I mean, it's okay, right?
Yeah,
So,
they're celebrities. We can say whatever. Well, I mean, as long as we're not telling lies about them. Anything, your opinion, feel free.
Lauren Holly, I think we should see her rack. I've seen it. It's interesting to me. It seems like I've seen it a little bit larger at times and a little bit smaller at times. So I'm just wondering.
Well, it could be whether or not it's getting pumped up.
Right, I know. So I'd like to check it out a little closer, just from a female perspective.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. You girls talk and think more about tits than we do. You know that, right? You probably don't look at them more, but you talk and think about them more.
I don't know. I might look at them more.
That's possible. You might.
What can I say? I believe in, nice looking racks.
Anything else that you would like to say to the listeners?
I just want to say thank you again for listening and tuning in. And if you have any questions, don't forget to call in and we'll get the questions answered, get some opinions from everybody. And again, thank you for making this a great podcast.
Thus, we bring episode 19 to a close. Please feel free, as always, to join the conversation by posting anonymously on sexualdarkage.com and especially by scribbling on the bathroom wall, emailing jvaltheros@gmail.com, or calling into the listener line at 517-376-3116. You can find Shara and I on Facebook, Twitter, and now FetLife.com through links on the website. And if you've got iTunes, it'd be great if you take the time to give me a good rating or review. It'll get the show out in front of more listeners. Not sure what's lined up for next week's show quite yet. I haven't decided, but until then, this be me, JV Altheros, reminding you that sex is one of the greatest things in life, and there is always room for better.